poem My Mother at 66, class 12, English core. It's written by the poet Kamla Das. A little bit of introduction of Kamla Das. She was born in Malabar, that is south part of India, and she writes under the name of Madhavi Kutti. She is known for her originality and versatility and indigenous flavor of the soil. In this poem, she has captured the bond between the mother and daughter. She has also told about, in this, she describes the pain, the fear of separation from a mother and daughter, and the harsh realities of life, that is death, which ultimately separates a person's bond and all. So we start the poem. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday. The poet is traveling in a car. Along besides her, her mother is traveling, and she is coming from her parents' home to Cochin, and Cochin is a place where her mother resides, and she, on that morning in the car, she looks at her mother's face, who is right beside her, means alongside her. Those open-mouthed her face, this is the description of the mother who is taking a nap and her mouth is open, her face is totally ashen, just like the lifeless corpse, means a dead body, and realized with pain. So Kamla Das over here talks about the look on the face of her mother, who is taking a short nap, and her face here has been compared to a corpse. That is, a simile has been used by the poet over here. She looks totally lifeless, just like a dead body, and realized with pain. Over here the theme comes the pain of separation between the mother and daughter. That she was as old as she looked. Looking at the face of her mother, she realized that she was looking as old at the age of 66 and all. To divert her mind from her mother's face, which was invoking a painful memory to her and all, she looked out of the window of her car. Kamla Das did not want to have a painful memory or looking at her mother. She did not want that she should be worried or she should be frightened of her mother's advancing age, as she thinks that the mother is inching towards her death. To divert her and this thought away of being separated, she looked out of the window of her car and looked at the young trees which are sprinting, that is moving fast. Over here, figure of speech is there, sprinting, moving fast. Metaphor has been used. The trees have been compared to a human quality. The trees are running fast, and the merry means over here, the happy children. The happy children are spilling, means they are coming out of their houses. So over here a contrast has been used by the poet Kamla Das. The contrast is between her own mother and the children, those who are young. So the mother has been depicted as old, the children are young, the mother is totally lifeless or listless and all, and the young children are energetic, they are full of vigor, and this is the contrast the poet is talking about. So she looks at the young over here, young trees which are moving, and the happy children which are coming, those who are coming out of their houses and all homes. But after the security checkup, now Kamala Das goes through the formalities of boarding an aeroplane. She goes through the security checkup and stands a few yards away from her mother, and for the second time again she looks at her mother's face, and now she realizes that her mother's face is totally yellow, pale in color. It is quite weak, and it has been compared over here with the late winter's moon, which depicts as the literary device or the figure of speech used over here is simile. The mother in the first stanza has been compared to the lifeless body of a corpse. In the second one, her face, which is pale yellow in color, that has been compared to weak pale color, has been here compared to the late winter's moon, which itself is very dim and doesn't have that sort of a brightness. It lacks the brightness or the vigor, or you can say that it is not that having so much of strength. So over here again a simile has been used by Kamala Das. Kamala Das, looking at her mother's face for the second time, she realizes the old familiar ache, the pain. Familiar in the sense why? Because it has been her childhood fear that she will be ultimately separated by her mother because of death and all. So she talks about her childhood fear that was there in her mind and heart, and she looks at her mother and takes up courage and utters the word, "See you, Amma," and what she did was smile, smile and smile. The word smile has been repeated by the poet. So the literary device or the figure of speech used is repetition over here. So Kamala Das here talks about, at the last she bids adieu to her mother before boarding the plane, and she says, "See you again, Amma." Over here, "see you soon" depicts the hope of her seeing her mother for the next time also. Here, what all I did, the poet did was smile, smile and smile. The word smile has been stressed over here to show that the poet is trying to hide her emotional, or how scared she is, how frightened she is, and that pain, the suffering that she is going through, she really covers up with the bright smile on her face, and she says goodbye to her mother, which shows that she wants to tell her mother that she is quite optimistic when she says, "See you soon, Amma." So with this we conclude the poem My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Aunt Jennifer's Tiger, poem class 12, 301 English code, written by the poet is Adrienne Cecil Rich. She talks about a patriarchal society and also the complex relationship between a husband and wife. She has been portrayed as she has been called as a feminist and an American poet. A little bit about the poet over here, and she is talking about the constraints of a married life, what a woman goes through, and if she is suffering from the ordeals of a very unhappy married life. She is also trying to explore the inner feelings of a woman who is living under the cruelty, or you can say the dominance of, or controlled by her husband and all. So we start with the first stanza over here. The first stanza actually depicts the characteristics of those tigers and all. So we begin over here. Aunt Jennifer's tiger prance across a screen. Adrian Rich talks about a woman who is named as Aunt Jennifer, and she is actually making or creating those tigers. Where she is making or creating? She is making or creating these tigers on a tapestry, or it can be called as an embroidery. On a fabric of cloth, on a piece of cloth, she is doing the tapestry work or an embroidery. What has she created? She has created an image of those tigers, and how they are prancing, means they are jumping. The movement has been described over here of tigers as they are jumping across the screen. The screen over here can be called as a wooden panel. So Aunt Jennifer on a wooden panel has created those tigers, and she is doing the work of tapestry or embroidery in which she has made tigers and all. Tigers, this characteristics we go, they are bright topaz. Topaz over here, a yellow colored stone over here. So Adrian Rich talks about the look of the tigers. They are bright yellow in color. They are the denizens over here. It means they are the occupants or the inhabitants. They are the inhabitants or occupants of the world of green. Over here shows that forest. Forest has been depicted as the world of green. So these tigers are bright yellow in color. They are the citizens, occupants or inhabitants of the forest, and they do not fear the men beneath the tree. Adrian Rich has also made a figure of a tree under which certain men are sitting, and she talks about that they do not fear. Another characteristics comes out as the tigers over here are quite fearless of the men, those who have been depicted on this tapestry work or an embroidery work. They pace, the tigers pace means move in sleek chivalric certainty. Sleek over here shows as elegant. They are quite elegant. They are chivalric, means they are quite honorable, graceful. They are honorable, graceful. Certainty, the word over here, certainty, here we can take it as certain. Certain also depicts that how confident they are. So the tigers are fearless. The tigers are confident, they are honorable, they are graceful, they are quite elegant and stylish. So they are totally fearless of the men, those who are sitting underneath the tree. So in the first stanza, Adrian Rich talks about the characteristics, how they look and what are the features of the tigers. Let's move ahead. So the poet is talking about a lady over here again, and she is embroidering on a piece of cloth or fabric, and here the picture or the image shows the tigers are moving and jumping all over the fabric, and the bright yellow color over here, it is a metaphor, a figure of speech used by Adrian Rich. The dense green forest background is their home, which has been called as the denizens of the world, of the green forest, and they are proud, fearless citizens of the forest. So this is the first stanza in which Adrian Rich talks about the features or characteristics of tigers. We move on to the next stanza. Aunt Jennifer's finger fluttering through her wool. Fluttering over here, it can be shaking or trembling. As she is doing the tapestry or the embroidery work, Aunt Jennifer's fingers, they are trembling and shaking through the wool, and she finds even the ivory needle hard to pull. As she is doing this creative work, Aunt Jennifer finds it very difficult to pull the needle and her hands are trembling. This shows that the fear, actually, she is quite fearful of. Let us see what she is fearful, that her hands are trembling and all. The next two lines will be very clear. The massive weight of uncle's wedding band. So massive weight over here is a hyperbole, a literary device used by Adrian Rich. Hyperbole. Massive means huge. The huge weight of uncle's wedding band. Band over here shows the ring which she is wearing on her finger. So the massive weight of uncle's wedding band over here, Adrian Rich is trying to portray that the band which is in hand of Aunt Jennifer, it looks actually quite burdensome to her because of the uncle's dominance, because she is controlled and oppressed and suppressed by her husband, that is the uncle. So here the band, the ring is not heavy. Here Adrian Rich is trying to tell that because of the constraints of a married life, Aunt Jennifer is going through a lot of ordeals, and due to those ordeals and all, she finds it very difficult even to do a very simple thread work, needle and thread work. And also she talks about the band, which is a symbol of a marital relationship between uncle and herself. So this ring, which is a symbol of marriage, that is laying stress. It is laying stress, quite a stress or a burden. It is quite burdensome to Aunt Jennifer. So here she talks about, Adrian Rich is talking about the relationship, how the relationship between Aunt Jennifer and her husband, that is the uncle, is. So an alliteration, the literary device is there, the consonant repetition of F word, fingers fluttering. Figure of speech is alliteration. One more was there, massive weight, which is a hyperbole, an exaggeration by the poet over here. We move on to the third stanza, which talks about the future of Adrian Rich, what will be after her marriage. When aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. Now in future, Adrian Rich talks about that this lady, Aunt Jennifer, has even lost her individuality. If you look at this line, when aunt, if you look at the previous two stanzas and all, the aunt has been given a name Jennifer, and that name is missing over here. She just has been called as aunt, which shows that she has lost her individuality. And as she lays dead or she will be dead, her terrified hands over here, it is one more figure of speech called as transferred epithet. Her terrified hands, her hands will be still frightened because her fingers over here, they still have the ring, which is the symbol for a marital bond between her and her husband, and still ringed over here. A figure of speech is fun. It has been used for two meanings by the poet. Over here, one is the ring that she is wearing on her finger. The second one is that she is encircled, or you can say she is surrounded by difficult situations. With lot of difficulties she is surrounded by, that has also been depicted as the word ringed over here. So her hands are frightened as her fingers still, they are having it is having the ring, and with ordeals she was mastered by. And because of these ordeals or constraints, the problems that she has been facing in her married life, which has been totally mastered by over here, can be that the uncle over here is quite dominant and he has totally controlled, he is totally controlling his wife, that is Aunt Jennifer. So this is a projection of future of Aunt Jennifer, that when she is dead, her hands will be still terrified or frightened because her finger is having the ring, which shows that she is still married to the uncle, and that marriage has been quite an unhappy experience for Aunt Jennifer, which has been, most of the time she has been victimized, she has been victimized by the cruelty or the dominance of her own husband. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing proud and unafraid. Adrienne Rich talks about the creation of Aunt Jennifer. She tells that the tigers which she has made on the wooden panel in the form of a tapestry or embroidery work, there has been no change in them. Their characteristics remains the same as has been projected in the first stanza. They will keep on prancing, moving in a very confident manner. They are quite fearless, they are proud, they are energetic, they are bold, they are graceful, they are elegant, and all, in contrast to Aunt Jennifer, who has been called as a feeble, quite timid, and she has been victimized. She is quite a frail woman. So there is a contrast between the creator and her own creation. The future of the Aunt Jennifer also projects that through her creation, Aunt Jennifer wants to be an independent person. She wants freedom. She wants that she has a longing desire which she is trying to portray through the image of those tigers. She also has this deep longing desire to be as like those tigers and all, which she is not. Adrienne Rich also uses a lot of symbols, irony and all in this poem, My Aunt Jennifer's Tiger. She also talks about that the symbol is called over here uncle, who stands as an oppressor, and a person who is quite cruel. Aunt, who is over here the Aunt Jennifer, and she has been portrayed as quite a feeble, timid and shy sort of a creature. Then a wedding band is also a symbol used by Adrienne Rich, which is a symbol for marriage. and also the hand over here has been used because the hand is the one in which the ring is being placed. Irony, lot of irony is there in this poem. Adrian Rich talks about the irony that at last the creator dies because the creator is mortal, and the creation, the artwork that she has done on a piece of, or a cloth or a fabric in the form of tapestry or embroidery work, that actually keeps on going as artwork is quite immortal. So irony is that the creator dies but the artwork remains as it is immortal. And the irony is also about that she herself has been projected as quite a weak, feeble lady, and she wants to be or imbibe the qualities or characteristics of the tigers over here. That is why she has chosen on her tapestry work to make the image of tigers, those who are bold, energetic, elegant, confident and all. So here one more literary device has been used, and that is prancing proud, a constant repetition of the sound P over here. So the figure of speech over here is alliteration, and the rhyming scheme is AAVV. With that we conclude the poem Aunt Jennifer's Tiger by Adrian Rich. Class 12 writing skill. As first topic is notice writing. Before we begin a notice, let us see what is the format and what are the characteristics of notice, what it should have. Notice should first have that it should be always placed inside a box. The content of the notice should be inside the box. The second thing that the notice has is the name of the institution or the organization. Notice also has the date and the heading, that what is the purpose for what this notice has been called. The circular which is displayed on a notice board must have a date when it is going to be organized, any event or any function, and it must have a heading to that notice which will be telling about the entire content of the notice. It also has over here, the content part is in three things we can talk about over here, which includes actually the date, the time, the venue, as well as what is being organized as such. What is the event that is being organized. So the event also has to be disclosed over here in the part of content. After content, we just go to the signatory. The person who is drafting or writing the notice, his signature and his name is also shown in the notice as such, which forms as the last part of a notice. So these are some of the features of notice or what is included as such, and let us do an example or an illustration to show that how we can draft this notice. So you write a question that you are Aparna / Akash Goel, the cultural secretary of Delhi Public School, Pune. your school is organizing an inter-school elocution competition. Draft a notice. The word limit for notice is 50 words. It comes under the category of short composition. So let us draft this question to understand how we can draft a notice. So as we had said that it starts with a box. So we make a box. We start with the name of the institution, the first thing that is. So we go to the question and find out the name of the institution, which is the Delhi Public School, and the place also has been given as Pune. So we write it in capital letters. For clarity, we can leave one line and we write the date, right on the left hand side LHS we write the date, and right there in the center we write the heading actually, which is notice. The word notice has to be underlined, and then follows the heading of the notice. What is the purpose of this event? Let us see this, what the school is going to organize. After the word organized, look at it. It is an inter-school elocution competition. So as it is a very long title over here, or the heading, we go for a short one and we write it as inter-school, and that also will be written in capital letter. Inter-school elocution. You can underline this also, competition. We begin with the standardized line like this is to inform the students that. Now we write the event, that is, the event is an inter-school elocution competition will be. So notice is always for a futuristic event as such. It has not been held. It will be held in the near future. So we need to come up with a date also. Elocution competition will be held for, you can be specific, notice has to be quite specific, who are the audience for whom you have drafted. So we are going to write the classes which will be involved in this inter-school competition. Will be held for classes 6th to 12th. The program is as follows. this is one pattern of doing the notice. The DTV, the date, time and venue can be written in the center also. So we are going to show it in quite a prominent manner. When the examiner goes through, he can see the date, time and the venue. Let us come up with something fictitious or futuristic date, that is 10th of June. Timing can be 9:30 AM. The venue can be a conference hall. Or a conference room. After writing the DTV, which is in short called for date, time and venue, we also write one sentence that interested students should contact their class teachers and submit their names on or before Now, as the event is going to be organized on 10th, you can start collecting the name till 8th of June. And after leaving one line, the last we conclude with the sentence that for further queries, kindly contact the undersigned. The undersigned is the signatory which we were talking about when we were drafting the format and all. So again we leave one line here. There can be a signature which is an optional. You may or may not write. So this is an optional. Right after that we write the name of the person. Again a line can be left and write Akash Goel. And the last part is the designation of the signatory, and the designation can be written in bracket over here. And if you go through the question, the signatory has the designation called as the cultural secretary. So that we need to write it over here. So I am just writing it, cultural secretary, which should come over here at the bottom. So with this we conclude the notice writing, and this is how it has to be framed or written.